Have you ever watched a killdeer protect her nest? Killdeer's a little bird about so big. They are the coolest thing. They lead their prey away from the nest. They don't attack. They lead them away. I was mowing the other day, and when I mow, little things strike me as kind of in a different way. It makes me tune in. Become mindful, I guess would be a great way. But I was mowing the other day, and this neighborhood dog, which is a mix between a lab and a Rottweiler, is what it looks like, is just out doing its normal everyday journey around the neighborhood. And he goes walking up, and I see this killdeer come flying out. And what they'll do is they've got a red spot up under their wing. And she'll go out away from her nest, and she'll lay down on her side and flap her arm, or her wing rather, and show that red spot, which looks like blood. And it gets the prey away from the nest, and when that prey gets close to them, they'll go a little bit further, and they'll do it again, and they'll a little bit further, and do it again, and then they'll fly up. After they get good 200-300 yards away from the nest, the bird will simply fly back to the nest, and the prey's forgotten about it. Like, oh, missed out. I'm sitting here watching all this, and it occurred to me that that's what this world does to us in our spiritual living. It creates these distractions. It creates something that looks better. It creates or causes us, might be a better way to say it, it causes us to see the material things of this world as being something better and more than the spiritual living that we can actually be doing. When we focus on God, it's absolutely amazing. That's where we feel that 100% unconditional love. That's where judgments just slide away. We don't even have to deal with that anymore. That's where we stop comparing ourselves to others. That's where we see no line between ourselves and God. That line, I kind of think of it, and obviously this is on my mind because of the remodeling of the bathroom, but I think of it as like drywall. When you put the drywall up, there's a definitive line in the mud that you put up, and then when you go to sand it, it just feathers out. And you can't really tell where the line starts. It just moves from one, the drywall itself into the mud, and it's just a really nice, smooth transition. I see focusing on God, focusing on spiritual living, kind of that way. That line gets blurred. It just feathers out, and before you know it, you cannot tell the difference between me, this human form, and the spiritual self that I truly am. When we focus, it's absolutely beautiful. But we allow our focus to get drawn into chaos. We allow our focus to get drawn into, some of us, the media, all of the craziness of the world that we see out there. Sometimes we get drawn into the need for more stuff. And thankfully a bunch of us have had a need for more stuff recently, because now we're having a great garage sale coming up. So it's going to be, the focus is basically just what we tune into. Our focus also tells us what we place the most value on. What we spend the most time tuned into is what we have put the most value on. That does not mean that we want it to be there. For instance, when I get caught up in the worldly things, I'm going to be looking at that motorcycle that I would love to go buy. And I can get focused on that. And I hate to say it, but that actually has a higher value to me when I'm focusing on it than anything else. What you spend the most time focusing on is what has the highest value in your life. Dr. John DeMartini does a beautiful, it's about a 2-hour program about this specific thing. And the first time I heard it, I wanted to argue with him. There's no way that I put more value on my job than I do my wife. His answer was simple. What do you spend the most time focused on? I couldn't argue with that. We do that every day. We get focused on something around us. And oftentimes it is not what we truly want to be focused on. So the gift for this morning is awareness. Just be aware of where your focus is. And then change it. If your focus is on a new car and you want it to be on God, change it. Change the focus. It's that simple. Now, the way to know where your focus is, because we do get caught up and we don't realize it, is just to be mindful, be aware. Mindfulness is simply paying attention to what's going on right now. Now, I kind of alluded to it a little bit when I was telling the story about the killdeer. When I'm on the mower, I am so mindful because it doesn't take a whole lot. I don't have to pay attention to where I'm going with the mower. It's going to cut whatever I run over. You know, I just have to make sure I don't run into stuff sometimes. But I can get to, and there's a lot to run into out here. But you can get tuned into what's going on around you. For instance, the hawks around this property are absolutely beautiful. When I'm mowing, I see more cool stuff. They almost do a dance in the sky. There are two over here and then two over there that are there always, and they really do. They get up there and they kind of do a little dance, and then every once in a while a mockingbird will run up there and chase them off, and they'll circle around and come back. What you tune into is where your focus is. That's where your values are. To me, that dance that I see in the sky is a spiritual experience. And being mindful of it causes me to tune in deeper, causes me to focus more. You know, I could easily just run through here, put the headphones on, and not pay attention to a thing. I can tune stuff out. Kathy can attest to that. I can go into my own little world and not hear a thing. Nothing bothers me. And then other times this morning, for instance, I'm very mindful and very tuned into what's happening right this moment. That humidifier or whatever that thing is right there was dripping, and it was just aggravating the fire out of me while we were doing our meditation. So when you can get tuned into stuff. One of my favorite activities, as you know, I do some team development programs, and one of my favorite activities teaches this. People think that the craziness of the office does not bother them. And I can disprove that every time with a little game. I have a bag of toys, and people just love it because it's got rubber chickens, it's got balls, it's got little hoops, all kinds of little toys in this bag. And we will do what's called a ball toss. And we start off I'll throw a ball over here to Gloria, and she'll throw it to Billy, and Billy will throw it to Kathy, and it'll go all the way in the room till everybody catches and throws. And then we'll do it again. And we challenge them to do it faster each time. And then I'll turn it into a situation just like the office where I'll throw one out. And as soon as the ball hits the first person, I'll throw a second one out. And then I'll throw through it. And then we'll have 30 or 40 things up in the air. And all chaos just goes crazy. The balls and the rubber chickens end up all corners of the room. They're just all over the place. And it's like, what happened? And they just kind of look at me. Well, you threw too much stuff out. This is the workplace. This is life. We get focused on the craziness. It's hard not to. Sometimes the craziness is fun. Sometimes the craziness is loud. Sometimes the craziness is bright colors. It's anything that takes our attention away from where we want to be. And that's exactly what I created from them. All of this stuff flying around in the air, and they get tuned into it, and they forget what they want to be focused on. This happens to us every single day. If you're a fan of the news, I had this conversation with my mother just this week. We talked about, she was concerned. I was hooking up a cable box or something new that she got for her TV. And her comment was, as long as I have Channel 5 so I can watch the news. I said, well, we need to talk about this. So I'm not going to get into whether Channel 5 is good news or bad news, but it's general media and one of the networks. So guess which one I think it is. I do not watch the news, by the way. Watching that, though, you get caught up into it. And I have seen her do it over and over and over again. And I am guilty of it myself because that's why I don't watch the news anymore, is you get so caught up in the stuff that they're reporting, whether it's true or not, whether it's sensationalized or not, you get caught up in it, and all you can see is the negativity that they have brought to you. It is very hard to watch a story about a school shooting and see God. Now, I don't walk around this world blindly. I know when the school shootings happen. Because, number one, I keep an eye on social media because I have so much stuff going on there with business and with this community that I keep an eye on it. And when I see something like that, I have some sources that I will go look at just to see what the facts are. And then I'm able to try to see God in that. Where does God come into play with this? Now, if I just listen to the news, I'm getting caught up in their chaos. My focus is moving away from God. And I keep pointing at God up here. God's here. I keep pointing here, but it's just for illustration, I should say. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Uh-huh. Yeah. That's true. And what I've noticed is, or what I believe to be true in all of this, is I think that technology has gotten so great that we're seeing everything that happens, as opposed to years ago we didn't see it. So it's not. So you're right. Crime and murders and things are actually coming down, but we're seeing more of it. Yeah. It's more emphasized, and it's harder to find that story, so you've got to sensationalize it to make it sound bigger. Okay, and that's what focus does to us. That's what focus has done to the people who are just starving for the ratings. They have to focus on, how can I make this bigger? How can I make this little bitty story gigantic? And that's what happens to us in our real life. We get pulled away from what's important into what they think is important. Kathy and I were talking this morning. Facebook is now deciding what's important for me to see. They've been doing it for a while. But we've got a real good friend who Kathy sees her post all the time. I don't see them anymore because Facebook has decided that she's not important to me. Wait a minute. So what you've got to do, and I knew this was happening with the different pages. I didn't know it was happening with friends on Facebook. But what I did with the pages is I went and I created a way for me to focus on what I wanted to see. I will have to do that with my friends. I'll have to find a way to focus on what I want, on who I want to see. Same thing in life. It becomes a mindful choice. Focus on what you desire to see. You want to live a more spiritual life? Focus on a spiritual life. You want to live more connected with God? Focus on your connection with God. Find ways to make this happen. For me, it's meditation. That's the easiest way for me to connect. That's the easiest way for me to realize oneness with God. That's the easiest way for me to see and experience spiritual living. Now, meditation is not just sitting quietly, closing your eyes. I meditate when I'm on the mower. See, a lot of people see mowing as a chore. It is a very cool place for me to be. I love it. And, as Billy knows, we've got a lot of meditation time in front of us. with an acre at the house. Yeah. Yeah, there's a total of about, for both of us, about a total of 7 acres that, or 5, 6 or 7 acres that we get to. I love that. I think I'm going to get some, put them out in the woods back there. But, yeah, that's great. So the challenge is just become aware, become mindful of what it is that you want to place the most value on. Where do you want your focus to be? And then just tune in. Every time your focus varies a little bit, just ask yourself a question. This is not about judging yourself. This is not about beating yourself up if you go focus on a new car. It's not about focusing on something away from a spiritual, because it's really impossible to focus away from spirituality since God is in everything. We just don't always look at it that way. But if you ever catch yourself focusing on the chaos, just call a time out. Question yourself. That's the way to become more mindful. Question yourself. What is this doing for me right now? How is this serving me? What good can come of this? How can I see deeper into this? My example of this is the trees. I love going to the trees because standing here looking at the tree right back here, I can see the beauty of the leaves. When I walk closer, I can see the beauty of the bark. When I walk closer, I can see the beauty of the inhabitants of that tree. You know, I can see the insects or the birds, or you just can take in more and more and more by looking at different levels. Same thing with focusing on your life. It's not to beat yourself up. Look at what you're looking at. Find out how it serves you. If it does not serve you, change. Nobody's going to call a time out and say, you can't do that. Change. It's your choice. It's your life. Tune in and focus.